Hey Olivia.
Hey there, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. How you getting on? What you up to?
Uh, um, been working a lot for clients, because now he's got his team in Go high level, and there's a lot of things. Project where it's span over months, but like there's been a lot of changes from the beginning to now. But he,
Hmm.
he forgot he forgot part of it. It's kind of funny to see the problem that creates, but at the time how Go high level can solve all that. But it's just forces me to go out back in and do a lot of adjustments and making things better. So, but that I do that because I'm upgrading him to the second location and to those things.
Hmm.
I put a lot of efforts without making him pay, especially for that. But I'm learning at the same time, so it's good.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I've been busy on. It's very funny. I was doing that thing from Iman Gadzi. The four. Basically, he's using the same boot camp, the 3 day workshop, but he does it in 4 days boot camp, which is basically 1 day extra. But it's the same principle in that way because I saw it suddenly coming in the through the different days that they were putting up. Like an upsell at the end for like people who wants to have access to their coaching, because you
Hmm.
can do it by yourself with the system. But every time, we show like, yeah, but if you have someone who can, coach you on how to, when you are at that level, if someone who has a lot of experience of dealing with that can give you the little extra little things, then you can get access to that. I was like, oh, here we go. We are preparing. I saw it coming, like I saw it really, but it was smooth. You can do everything without it. They deliver tons of value as well, very
Yeah.
very high level value in that way. So it's totally acceptable. But it's so funny to see the psychology that when you know it, then
Yeah.
you pinpoint it straight away, and you see it coming from one or two sentence already. You're like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. You see
Yeah,
them putting the jigsaw puzzle pieces together and start
yeah,
to build
yeah,
up to it. Yeah, it's funny because you'll see it everywhere. Everywhere you look,
yeah.
and it's crazy. I don't know.
But
I always, yeah. Carry on. What were you gonna say?
what I find it very interesting is that they have like in one of the tools that they give us, they got something where you can drop like a link of a creator Instagram, for example, or
Hmm.
you know uh, something else, or YouTube, and then they can collect everything, read all the comments, and they will basically pinpoint the possibility of monetization from his audience,
Oh, interesting.
uh, and come with a game plan on that. And
Hmm.
that's what I like with that. It is that it gives you an opening on all these creators. And we were talking about, the one in school that try to upsell to high ticket all the time, but are not that very good at monetizing people and giving them value, and that we could help them with our system. That's the same way
Hmm.
here. You can basically with that game plan, but also some of the people will be interested to enter into something where you can help them basically manage all the creation of offer and the monetization of it,
Hmm.
and other ones will only want like some help to do the funnels and things like that. So that opens a whole panel of opportunity with creators, like what they call micro creators, the one between 10,000 and let's say
Yeah.
200,000 followers, something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty. It's funny to see how many are out there. It's crazy. There's
Yeah.
really a lot.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
It
yeah,
is. It is. It is. It's huge amounts, and
yeah.
there's people in all sorts of fields as well that have expertise in
Mhm.
certain fields that we might think from a marketing perspective, but you can go into healthcare. There are people in that space. You
Mhm.
just unravel. And what there was a really weird one I came across just the other day. Is I can't quite recall exactly what it was, but it was a really bizarre niche, and they crush it, absolutely crush it. And you'd never think of going, even like the ATM businesses as well. I remember I worked with a guy
Mhm.
who basically taught people how to how to start a business where they were buying ATMs, right? And he
Mhm.
did really well on YouTube, and that's exactly what we did. We just converted his YouTube audience into,
Yep.
with a VSL. We retired, worked beautifully, absolutely beautifully.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy the amount of people, even the people who teach how to clean your home and things.
Mhm.
Madness. The amount of opportunity out there
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
that's
always
why
found
it's really like an abundance of that. There's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
no lack of possibilities in that way.
yeah.
So,
And I was even speaking to someone in recruitment yesterday, and they were telling me that there's even, I had no idea. Like you get with payment processors, you get merchants of record, which is basically a company who will do all the payments. They'll take the payments, not quite Stripe. Like there's one called Paddle. Basically, they take
yeah.
the payment. It's kind of like what School works as. School's a merchant of record. They'll pay the sales tax wherever it has to go. Then they pay you, right? It's like
Mhm.
they're a middleman, and it's to do with your location and things. It means you can operate from the US basically. In recruitment, that's actually the same thing. There's a person of record where they will hire all the employees. They will deal with all the US legislation, and you just pay the salary to this company, and they pay the employee. I had no idea
Mhm.
that was a thing. I had no idea. When you start unraveling this stuff through conversations, it's crazy.
I
It
I
really
saw
is.
one that really I think there is also a good amount of money to do if you work as an hybrid version where you get a percentage. Is
Mhm.
people who basically offer like business loans, and now they are
Yeah.
coming. I see that there is a move from American company to come to Europe to propose loans, business loans.
Mhm.
So yeah, and yeah, you get a percentage on every every loan that is signed up, and you get a percentage of it as them as intermediary. So if you get
Yeah.
you help them to generate leads for that and stuff, and yeah, it's it's
It
also
reminds me, actually, I'll just give people a chance to join here, but it reminds me of a story my dad was telling me. He was telling me he still works very, very close to retiring, but he still works, and he works for like a big real estate company as the
Mhm.
like in the legal department. He's a lawyer, so he works in the legal department, and he's quite close with the CEO. This is a huge company, and he was telling me the CEO, like, he's this crazy guy with all these ideas, big ideas, doing this, that, and the next thing. And what he was doing was, let's say someone wanted to move house, he would, but they needed money, liquid for down payments,
Yeah.
etc.
Mhm.
He would actually lend the money to them at no interest, nothing, and then just get it paid back, and or maybe a slight bit of interest. And my dad was like, "No, no, 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 you cannot, you cannot do that. It's completely illegal. You cannot do that." But again, like these things exist, right? These
Yeah.
obviously you should have done it the right way, but again, you'd never think of that. People don't lend money to people who need down payments just
Mhm.
because maybe money is stuck somewhere, they can't get it out, or whatever the reason is, right? Crazy. Maybe the house hasn't sold yet, like a bridging loan kind of thing. Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable. The opportunity. But I always find it interesting though, like I don't consume any content, to be honest with you. I'm very much in my own sort
Mhm.
of world, mainly because I'm just really busy.
Yeah.
And I always find it funny how, I from a 3-day workshop perspective, I just came up with that by doing it. Like the sessions like this, right? Just came up,
Mhm.
sort of just materialized, and then you start to see other people do it, and you think, how did they come? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
How did
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
come up with the same thing? But yeah.
It's in the
Anyway,
ether.
yeah, exactly. But yeah. Do you have any questions you wanted to cover?
No, I don't have specific question at the moment. I might have some question with support again with connecting my emails and stuff if I see that I'm struggling with the whole team to be able to do that for the client tomorrow. But no, at the
Sure,
moment, okay.
sure, no problem. Just reach out to us, and we'll take care of you. No issues at all. Does anybody else have any questions they want us to cover? Feel free to ask. I'll dive into the training. We'll go through today's training. I think time wise, I think it usually these sessions are 90 minutes long or so. I think time wise, this one again, It could be shorter. It might not be. You know what I'm like. I'll tell different anecdotes as I go. So we'll see where we end up time-wise. But does anybody have any questions they want us to cover before we dive into this training? It can be about anything. If there are more in-depth questions, I'll open up at the end of this session as well, and we'll do a bit of a Q&A and help you with anything you need help with, direction, strategy, whatever it is. But anything anybody wants help with before we dive in? No, nothing. That's all. All right. I'll give it a few more seconds. All right. Okay, we'll dive in to the training. So this one, obviously I've done a session like this before for my last trip out to see this client, and every time I come back, and I'm not home yet. I'm actually up in Michigan at the moment, but I'm home on Friday. Yep, Earl's just joined us here. He said in the chat here, just joined us just before the call there. So big welcome, Earl. This is some of the folks. You'll get access to the WhatsApp community as well, and you'll see a lot of people in there too. And they're very, very friendly faces. The only one that bites is this guy called Wade Collins in the middle here. I'd avoid him. Yeah, he's trouble. I'm only messing with you, Wade, if you're there, if you can hear me. I don't know if you're muted or what, because I know you definitely had an answer back for me there. But anyway, I'll dive in. So yeah, basically and now I feel bad because Wade can't respond and hit me back there. Now it just looks like I'm being mean to him, but I promise you I'm not. He's just having audio issues. All right, anyway, I digress. So basically, when I go on these trips, I'm basically out to see clients, and I have small stakes in their businesses. So I go out and I visit, and I'll be back over again in the end of August, I think it is. Yeah, start of September, end of August. So I go out and I visit, and this client I've been friends with and obviously worked with him directly for probably the last 5-6 years in different ways, different businesses that he's had. And basically the way I was introduced to him is he wanted ads for a clothing brand that he had, and he was just starting, and we basically ran the ads and we sold out his inventory, and he couldn't keep up inventory wise. So he said, look, we're going to have to stop that business because I can't keep up with the inventory. Then he started this next business, and he thought, who do we call? So he brought me in to it, and now we're probably doing this business does about 70 million a year now. I mentioned his net worth here is $30 million. That's not including the business. The business is separate because there's a few partners in there. The business is entirely separate. This is a guy who literally 5-6 years ago had nothing to his name. He lived in an apartment, and he literally had nothing. He had issues, he had definitely had issues. Maybe say 6 years ago now, he definitely had issues. He had nothing, he had no advantage over anyone else, and now to this day he's worth $30 million, and that's mainly liquid as well. So huge growth. And I find when we enter the rooms with these people, when we sit down and we have those conversations, we sit face to face, it is incredible. You learn so much. You learn so much more than you would ever learn online, just chatting back and forth on Messenger with them and things like that, or even Zoom calls. Sitting there across the dinner table, it changes everything. So anyway, this session is going to be the 30 lessons I learned. People loved this the last time I did it. So this time I'm going to teach you what I learned, basically bring you to that dinner table. And I would say to you, this time I was even more impressed, and I learned even more. I was even more of a sponge. And I've told you the ridiculousness of this relationship. The dinner that he takes me out to, he's Turkish, there's no alcohol involved in the dinners and such. So for two people, the bill was $1,000 USD for two people. And I promise you the steak wasn't that good. It was fine. It wasn't anything special. But would I pay for $1,000 for that personally? Probably not. But I didn't pay for it, so it was fine. Anyway, so it's a different way of living entirely. And he's got a very special mindset as well. The way he thinks is different. The way he operates is different. Would you believe, and this is maybe, I did pitch him an AI employee, which we're going to be doing, but would you believe when he when the business shuts, the receptionists go home at 6:30. Obviously, our dinner was at 8. We're sitting across the table, and his phone's going crazy all the time. And he picked up a call, and it was a customer, and he was helping the customer with the order. This business does $70 million. Yet if you call the business after 6:30 p.m., you get the owner. Think about that. They have 300 orders per day, every day coming in. Think about that pressure. Think about the opportunity. That's one thing, one way to look at this. Think about the opportunity, but then flip that and think about the mentality it takes to do that. Think about the mindset, the motivation it takes to be the one answering these calls. It takes a lot. So we're going to be diving into this. I'm going to show you what he does differently, the way he thinks differently to the vast majority of people, how they think, and of course, how we do this for ourselves. Now, I'm just going to mute everyone on this call. You can unmute yourself if you want to chat, just so there's no background noise. Let me get here. All right. We should be good now. Let's dive in. So the lessons are short and sweet, but I'm going to, where is this? Let's see if this fixes it. There we go. I'm going to elaborate on each of these points as we progress. So the first lesson that I learned, and this was actually a big one, I wanted to put this at number one for a reason. Your life changes when you become willing to do things that feel irrational to normal people. Now, this is actually one he said to me directly, because the week before I went there, I had zero plans to be there. No plans. That's why you didn't know about it. I would have told you. I booked this within 3 days of my flight time. And I just booked it. I thought, you know what? I have to go out there. The performance was actually excellent, but I just had this feeling. I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to go out there. I flew out there, booked hotels, whatever, rented a car, just went out there. And I just had this gut feeling, and I thought, I have to be there. So I went out, and he couldn't believe that I just showed up. Basically, the social media content they have a videographer in the place. It wasn't giving me what I needed. It was good for social content, but not very good for ads and things like that, right? So I had to go out there. I thought, you know what? The only person that can train this videographer on how to do this is me. I have to go. So I just did it like that, made the snap decision, paid a fortune because, the Strait of Hormuz with the flight prices and the oil prices and whatnot, crazy, the fuel, stupid prices. But he loved it. He loved the fact that I just got up and came over there and sat down, and I was there in 24 hours later, just did it. So he basically said to me, when you do things like that, it feels irrational to normal people. People would think it was ridiculous to do something like that. If I said to my dad, for example, because he's a very opinionated person, I'm sure you can all relate to that with parents and family and such, very opinionated. And he would say, it's ridiculous. Why you do that? Stupid thing to do. But this is the thing that opens doors, because he said to me and gave me opportunities at that table. He's brought me into 5 different businesses that he has. He's basically said to me, look, you're part of the furniture here. When we sell this company, you're going to get the cut out of it as well. So just by going there and doing the thing that feels completely ridiculous to other people, you get ahead, you get the opportunity. Now, most people need that guaranteed outcome before they do anything. But the people who win big, the best, the most, they move first. They don't always understand the full value of the decision that they're making. They don't understand maybe why. Maybe they just have a gut feeling, but they're willing to take the chance. They're willing to just think this could work. It might not work. It might not have the desired outcome, but it could work. And I'm willing to bet my chips that it would work. And over time, when I look back and I think about my business journey, I start to see different times where I just did things, right? I didn't think about it. I just did it. When I first moved to Canada, I didn't have a single plan. I didn't have a visa in place, like a working visa. I had nothing, no plan. I had nowhere to stay, didn't have a car, nothing. I just did it. It just opened the door. When I moved around Canada, the different places, I didn't have family or friends or reasons to be there. I just had the gut feeling. The energy of that particular city in Toronto, for example, was exactly what I needed at that time. And I was right. So over time, as you make these decisions, as you do things that seem ridiculous or irrational or that make no sense at all, you build up a level of confidence. You build up this level of confidence where you start thinking, well, I keep making these decisions. They might not seem rational, but they work. And that builds your confidence to make that next decision. So important. So that's one very important thing that he told me is you have it's you might feel at times anxious. So you might feel as if, should I be doing this? Am I good enough to do this? Maybe a sense of imposter syndrome comes into play. We've all probably felt that before, right? That sense of imposter syndrome. But that pattern of behavior reinforces that it's the right decisions to make. You take the chance, and you just keep getting back up whenever it doesn't work. That pattern will lead you to that success. So that's the first thing that he said to me, basically, when I sat down. That one was actually in the office. First thing he said to me. Now, one of the scariest things about high level environments, so, people that are far more successful, is how quickly they expose your current standards. Now, all of a sudden, you realize how much time and energy and potential you've not been taking advantage of. Every single one of us on this call, every single one of us who's watching this recorded or who's in our WhatsApp community or who's in our world is capable. And I don't say that just because, everybody can do this. No, that's not true. Not everybody can do this. You walk down the street, 99% of the people you pass cannot do what we do. But the reason I can confidently say that you can do this is because you made the decision to do something different. You made the decision to go against the status quo. You made the decision to say and question what's actually possible. You made that call. And having that ability to see something that maybe isn't quite this, normal, not the normal path in life, having the ability to see that and then take action on it by entering our world or doing as you do, that's the skill set. That's the magic. It's not about brains or experience. It's that one single piece of attitude to question it and take action. That's all you need. So I know you're capable of it. I know everybody in our world is capable of doing it because they asked the question. So as we enter these environments with people who are ahead of us, you start to see the level they operate at. A lot of people comment that they probably see me everywhere, right? I'm posting on social media all the time. You see ads everywhere. We're always releasing new systems into the lab. We're always bringing new things out. We're always working behind the scenes hard. We're always in customer service. We're always there. And they ask me, how do we do it? Well, the reason we can do it like that is because I've been in environments with this guy who operates at 100 times that speed. He's got 5 different businesses that run. He is at trade shows. For example, last weekend in Chicago, he just flies out there with 3 other people, flies out there, has a booth, but he's got a million other things to do. And you think, that's the energy, right? We spend about 100,000 a month on ads. And I personally thought, they'll do millions per year. That's nothing to, that's fine. That's fine. They can aggressively grow. And he sat in front of me and he said, it's incredibly, it's anxiety inducing spending that amount of money. It's very difficult. It's stressful. But he does it. The reason he does it is because it takes him to that next level that nobody else can get to. He makes himself uncomfortable and stays there. So for me, I was always avoiding discomfort. I was always well, I don't want to do this because I'm not 100% certain I should be doing this. Maybe I should do something different. Whereas his environment exposed me. The reason he's further ahead than I am, worth $30 million, is because he was willing to be uncomfortable and stay in that discomfort, and not just a little bit of discomfort, but real discomfort. So it shows the standards, the speed that they operate with, the level of detail, the level of perfection they do everything to, their attitude to risk, the ability to just see an opportunity and take action on it, and their ability to just do the same thing over and over and over again, not expecting that outcome tomorrow, but being more than willing to take that outcome in a year and in 2 years, because the reality is he didn't really make any money from that business for 3 years. Now, sure, now he could sell it for 70, 80, 100 million. But that's because he put the time into it. He set the systems up and he didn't take those shortcuts. He did it properly. It exposes our mindset and our standards when we get into these environments. That's the second thing. Right. Give me 1 second to get a sip of water here. All right, I'm back. So the third lesson was something a little different. He said to me, because I said to him, I was pretty tired. And a lot of the tiredness that I have is actually because we work across different time zones, right? We've got Australia is one time zone that we're in, which is basically through the night. And in the mornings, we've got people in Europe and in the UK, which is the mornings for me. Then I've got people all across the US, from Eastern to Western, Pacific time zones, all that way across the board, which means I can be operating from 8 a.m. all the way to 11 p.m. Now, I'm not sitting working all the time, right? But I'm mentally on, I'm responding, I'm doing stuff. I'm always on. I've had issues crop up at 2 a.m. in the morning. So for me, I felt like I was tired. Very tired operating at that pace all the time. And he said to me, "You're not tired, you're understimulated." I didn't quite understand, and he explained it to me. And he said, "You're not keeping yourself close enough to the right conversations." Now, it's not about location, it's about that bubble that you create around yourself. He said, you have to keep yourself in those conversations and around those people as closely as you possibly can. And that energy comes back to you. So what he does, for example, he joins a lot of masterminds and things like that. He joins a lot of them. And it takes time. He flies out to, it's like one for people that have got a net worth of over 10 million, I think it is. And he flies out to Austin for it in Texas. And it's understimulated, Scott, you're right. Yeah, not unstimulated. So he intentionally flies out to these environments. And I always thought that, a lot of people know me, and I do travel quite a lot. I do. But there's a reason I keep doing it. My family think I'm absolutely crazy. And I go see them every week, right? Every week. They think I'm crazy. Absolutely crazy. But none of them have what I have. None of them do. And the reason I will spend so much money traveling is because I know that going into those environments, just changing that location gives me energy personally. This is my version of that, of going out and getting that energy, right? This is how I do it. This is how I basically inject myself with this energy. This is how I can operate at that speed. This is how I can always post content. This is how I do it. And even when it comes to when the first time around, when I moved from a smaller town in Canada to Toronto, when I first did that, I couldn't really swing it. I was paying $3,500 in rent back then, every single month. $3,500. I didn't have that in terms of after tax, right? I was too naive to even think about that. The first time I've moved multiple times to Toronto, but the first time, the reason I did it though was because I knew I had to put myself into that environment where bigger things were happening around me. Then what I did was I said, okay, it's not the environment physically that's doing it, it's my bubble. I have to build this bubble. And you keep yourself in this bubble of high energy. It creates this sense of you can do anything. So, for example, no matter where you're located, you don't have to physically move. I thought you did. Give me 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I thought you've got to put yourself in these big city environments. That's incorrect. The truth is, you've got to surround yourself. It doesn't have to be physical, but it has to be your bubble, your conversation bubble, your loop has to be giving you the right signals, the right energy all the time. And that's why I create these types of communities, right? Because we can circulate the right type of energy. If you go out to the supermarket today, this afternoon, if you speak to anybody around you physically, they're not going to have the right energy. They're going to actually take energy from you. This is why I say it's so important for you to literally make this your world. This is who you are. You're part of these communities, these worlds where people have bigger dreams, bigger visions, bigger plans. They do more. They do things that people aren't comfortable with, no matter what. So it's not that you feel tired. It's that there's people around you, probably locally, that are pulling from you. They're taking that energy, that negativity. You've got to protect yourself with unreasonable positivity, unreasonable ambition, and you'll find that that's going to inject you with the right energy and make you accelerate faster than you could ever imagine. I promise you that one. Very, very important to me, and that's why every single day I show up within the community. All right, the next one here. This is slightly different, and it's actually something I wanted to get some feedback on, because obviously we live in an online world. The benefit is we've got people on this call right now from all corners of the globe, and it's wonderful. But I want to make it more tangible, right? Because I've noticed that witnessing success makes it more believable, right? It makes it more tangible to you. When you can see it, when you can feel it, it becomes far more believable. So when I go into that environment and I go in his car, which is a $300,000 car, and you know me, stuff like that doesn't really interest me that much. Yeah, I like my cars, but not to that extent. I don't care that much. But there was something about it. There was something about just seeing it in person, sitting in that car, and thinking, this is pretty cool. Or going to his apartment. It was like a penthouse apartment he had. It was beautiful. 2 floors, big one, a beautiful, beautiful place. Actually physically being there and sitting across the table, smoking a cigar, things like that, just those small things are pretty special, right? So it got me thinking that actually physically being in that environment makes such a big difference. I wonder how I can bring that to you. So again, I'm open to feedback. If you want to let me know in the chat, if you want to let me know after the call, if there's a way I can somehow, as I travel, host meetups, dinners, and things like that, where I invite people, or not invite, but everybody's welcome in that area to come. If I did one, say, in Europe, would people come into, say, Barcelona or Madrid? If I did one in, say, like if I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, would people come to Charlotte to be in that environment, to connect with people, to network? Would you come? Would you come? It wouldn't necessarily cost anything, but would you come to it to be in that environment? So if people are interested in that kind of thing, I can make it happen. You know, I do travel a lot. We can host different things, but I just want you to feel that. I want you to feel that energy in person, where you can see it, hear it, witness it, experience it yourself. And yeah, so you can let me know after the call if that's something. I'd probably do one in London and maybe go to Melbourne in Australia, do one in the US, one further north, maybe towards New York or Canada, whatever. So you can let me know on that one. But witnessing this success really makes it believable, and it really makes it feel like you can achieve it, because the people are just like you. They're just like me. We can relate to them. So very important one. Again, please let me know if that's something that you think you'd benefit from. Because again, my goal is to make sure that you have everything that you could possibly need. So, number 5, most people's biggest addiction is emotional comfort. Digest that one for a second. Most people's emotional comfort is the addiction. So, what do I mean by this? Well, everybody wants to avoid what they don't like to do. This is why I'm not a big advocate for cold calling. I don't really like it at all, just from an efficiency standpoint. But people don't want to cold call because it's uncomfortable. I hear that all the time. It's always a question people have for me. Do I have to cold call? I say, no, we don't have to do that. But the pattern, that question is an identifier, right? It tells me they're avoiding that conversation. They're avoiding that discomfort, which is okay. We can avoid discomfort in life, but it's very, very easy for us to become trapped in always chasing comfort. Because when we chase that comfort, all of a sudden, we never want to do the hard things that make us uncomfortable. But success lies at the other side of discomfort. It's at the other side of it. So we have to do those things that are uncertain. For example, that trip itself. Did I know it was going to work out? No. Did I think it could be ridiculous? Yep. Was I uncertain about it? Yes. Did it anyway. And it's not a case of, it's more so leaving home. Obviously, as many of you will know, one of our dogs died like a month ago. So it's been difficult dealing with trying to take care of our other dog and the horses and things. It's been difficult. So I didn't want to leave my partner alone in that time doing that. So that was more what made it uncertain for me. But I knew I had to do it. I just had to do it. So I had to make myself uncomfortable. I had to do the things that didn't have the guaranteed outcome. Comfort is a killer. It really is a killer. You have to build systems around it where you can manage the comfort, and that's what it's all about. It's not about you feeling great as you do everything. It's not about you feeling terrible as you do everything. It's about knowing where your weakness is. If it's talking to people, managing it by setting up ladder funnels so you only talk to people that already know who you are, for example, right? If it's reaching out to people, well, what if we reached out to them, had them call an AI system that warmed them up for us first before we speak to them? We can create systems around the discomfort to make it easier for ourselves. It's kind of like your guardrails, right? We want to do the difficult thing. We want to do the thing that's uncomfortable. So in order for us to be able to do this, instead of trying to do it the hard way, let's do it the easy way. This is why people have personal trainers at the gym, actually. It's hard to get in the gym because if you don't go, the only person you let down is yourself. But what the personal trainers do, if you don't go, you let the personal trainer down. People don't like to let other people down. Therefore, they go. That's why that works. So you've got to think about how life works with guardrails. How can we set up systems that allow us to do the hard things we don't want to do whenever we need to do them without the same feeling? Because that feeling of difficulty will always get in your way. Then we'll progress on here. So the right room can compress 10 years of thinking very, very quickly, right? So you can have, if you get yourself into the right environment, you can accelerate your progress. That's why I said, if there is interest in doing dinners and things like that, we can make it happen because I want to accelerate your journey here. So getting yourself into those conversations, getting into the right conversations, surrounding yourself with the right environment will have you going a lot faster than trying to do everything yourself. Now, it doesn't mean you've got to have coaching and mentoring and all that super expensive stuff. No, that's not the point. You need to be in an environment that lifts you up every single day. Every single day, it pushes you forwards. That's the secret. And that's what we're creating here as well. This is why I create this, to put you in the right environment, to put you in the circle that drives you forwards. So getting into that room, which is what I'm again trying to do here, is not everyone can have that dinner. I understand that. I have this dinner because of experience, because of what we've done, because of the performance. I understand that. But I can bring it to you. I can tell you everything that I learn at these dinners about life, about business. I can bring you into the room. I can bring you to the table. So leverage this, right? This is stuff that it's kind of like you have to be here, right? You have to be there just to actually experience it. And you'll start to see a pattern in the way people think. So the next one, growth follows identity expansion. So your income rises in proportion to what you subconsciously believe someone like you is capable of. This guy, I've said to you, took him 5-6 years to get to this point from nothing. Well, when he had nothing, he put himself in an environment, which is where I met him. He was struggling with addictions in his apartment, nothing serious, but he was struggling with addictions, and it messed with him quite a bit, and he couldn't take action on certain things. And in his world, he felt like that was the way his life was going to be. Then he entered this online world where he met people. And I didn't actually know this. I had no idea this was the case. He said that when I had conversations with him, I was the one that lifted him up. That was the driver. I had no idea. He told me that afterwards. I had no idea that was the case. But basically, it was more a case of I was doing things. I was taking action. I was making things happen. And he leveraged that energy. And look where he is now. Now, nothing to do with me. It was just subconsciously it changed who he thought he was. Instead of being the person who is stuck in his own environment, he believed subconsciously he was capable of far more. So it changed what he believed he was capable of. And again, that's why you are here, because you know you're able to do more than the vast majority of people out there. And that's what I want to instill in you as well. I want to change that identity out of someone who maybe gets by or has a certain level of income to someone who thinks completely abundantly. Someone who thinks there's no limit to where they want to go. Someone who looks at 30, 50, 100,000 a month and thinks, you know what? I can have that level of income. That's the identity, right? So once we shift that identity and you believe that is who you personally are, you'll see your income start to shift. This is why I put myself in these environments. This is why I fly places, because it changes my identity. If you stay in your own world, your identity is going to stay there. The people around you, friends, family, they're going to reinforce who they knew you were previously, not who you want to become. So this is where we can have our friends, we can have our family, but there has to be a portion of your mind, a portion of your brain that enters our world here, where it consumes you. It becomes who you are. It is your identity. You are this person who has this business. You are the person that can install AI into businesses. You have access to systems that nobody else has access to. You are that person that can bring that value, and you get paid as a result. When you start to believe that and fully believe that, we will reinforce it until we're blue in the face. We will reinforce it into you. You'll start to see the money trickles in. It builds up and up and up and up as that identity shifts. Then it becomes your new standard. Once you hit 10K, 20K, 30K a month, you will find that you never drop below that. You might go 3, 4K below it and go back up again, etc. But that's your new hygiene standard, right? That's the standard you're at. You will not drop below that because your identity shifts. That's how that works. So we have to expand our thinking as to who we are, what we do. That allows you to believe in what's actually possible. And as I said, We will reinforce this. You cannot let your friends and family influence, or your local people around you influence who you are, because they're always going to default to who you were before, who they knew before, not who you are today. But the reality is that person, the person you were before, isn't who you are today, because now you've got access to wealth of information, systems that the old you never had. So you've got to look at it like this. This is how your identity expands. Again, another big one here. You can hear someone's future in the way they talk about risk. So when you hear somebody who is conscious of risk, afraid of risk, they're not going anywhere. And this is where you see how things start to marry together, okay? The identity part, if you are someone who identified as being a sort of risk averse, afraid of risk, they're always going to be stuck there. So we've got to shift that identity into that abundant person who talks about risk completely differently. Instead of focusing on losing things, that fear of loss, that scarcity mindset, instead of that, we focus on gaining things, that abundance, the opportunity, the next level. We can lose to get there because we know where we're going. There's no doubt in my mind that we know where we're going, so there's nothing to be afraid of. But you start to move differently. Your actions change when you start to realize that risk is something that's just a reality. I mean, imagine $100,000 a month in ad spend. 100, that's more than, I don't know what the average salary is, but it's a lot more than that, right? Every month in ad spend. Now, what if that ad spend is spent in that guy's business and it doesn't come back? What if it's a slow month? What if there's returns? What if his stuff breaks, his machinery breaks? What if all this stuff happens? That's all risk. But the reason he can do 5, 7, 800,000 per month is because he's taking that risk. He's not afraid to lose. The reality is, and this is how you should view risk, if you lose, you're resetting from start position with a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge, a lot more information, as a much different person. Therefore, you can go replicate it again. You can get back to where you were again, because that is who you are. So again, you see how the identity comes into this as well. We shift through gears. That is who you are. You know, whenever you reset, you're not going back to the start. You're starting 10 levels ahead because you've got the experience of having done it before. So we've got to change how we look at risk. We've got to be hungry for risk. We've got to be out there thinking, you know what, this could go wrong. It doesn't really matter if it does, though, because I'll just do it again. This is how we shift into the right mindset. So risk is a big one. All right, number 9 here. The people who achieve extraordinary things usually look unreasonable during the process. And this is why most people never do anything extraordinary. So basically, even being here, no one told you to be here. No one told you to join this call. No one told you to join the lab. No one told you to join the world of online business. No one gave you the permission to do it. You just did it anyway. So to people who are in the regular world, let's say, that are walking in the street, doing this sort of stuff looks unreasonable. As simple as that, right? In simple terms, doing this stuff looks unreasonable. You going out there offering services to businesses, only big companies offer services to businesses. We should just get jobs and work and get paid a salary. It's unreasonable. Everything looks unreasonable. The thought, if you go ask anybody in the street, the thought of sitting at your desk, and for me, think about it from my perspective, in the middle of nowhere, in Scotland, 30 minutes from a city, with 50 horses around me, right? So hardly even a cell phone service. You have to have really good Wi-Fi. It's unreasonable to think that I could have customers and clients literally across the world. Right? We've got Australia, all across the US, Canada, Malaysia, Dubai, everywhere, Europe, everywhere you can think of, from a remote place with a desk in Scotland. Ask anybody. That sounds ridiculous. It sounds mad, but it happens. So it's going to look very, very unreasonable, and that's perfectly fine. So you want it to look unreasonable. You want to be doing things that most people don't understand. So extraordinary will always look unreasonable. All right, let's get to the next one here. So speed is not about rushing, it's about removing emotional drag. So this again is very important. People think they do a lot of things very, very fast, when in reality, speed is actually removing hesitation. Okay, it's about having the task in front of you, having the to-do list, and just executing on that to-do list. So for example, the SOP and the playbook that I released in the chat on, what day was it? Maybe Monday or so. The SOP has a checklist at the end. The SOP I released in the playbook I released last week as well from the call. It had a checklist at the end. Speed is about not hesitating and just following the tasks, following the exact thing. And one thing I loved actually, and I'm glad Christina, I think she was busy or something there, she hopped back in. She did amazing when I said post social media content. She didn't think, she just did it. And it builds up, and it builds up, and it builds up. That's the attitude that we need. It's not about doing everything very, very fast. It's simply about having that clear direction in your head, not hesitating, and just taking action. That is all it takes. That's what speed is. That's how we do it. Now, the next one. A lot of people want a calmer life because they've never experienced meaningful momentum. This is important. It's a very, very important one. What I mean by this is there's a difference between stress. Stress is typically something we don't want to do. It's typically related to that. Not always, but typically it is. Something we don't want to do. When you have momentum, it doesn't feel like stress. You may have a lot going on. You may have a lot of plates spinning, but momentum is opportunity. Momentum is abundance. It is being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want to. That's what lies at the other side of it. So this lots of things to do, that kind of energy, that kind of to-do list, let's say, is easy to get done because the outcome is something that you really, really want. So how do we get so much stuff done all the time? It's because we're running with momentum. We really, really, really want the end goal. So we do it. It isn't a chaotic life. It's very controlled. It's very exciting. It's the flip. Okay, it's not going to be, so when you're building your business and you think you want it to be completely passive, you want it to be as easy as possible, and that's perfectly fine. But I promise you, when you get up there and you have the systems in place, you're going to be excited. You're going to be doing triple what you normally do, and you're going to love it. Because you're working on stuff that you love. You see the outcome. You see the results of that. That's why you can do things that no one else can do. That's why I can sit and do these calls every single Wednesday for 4 years. I've never missed one because I love it. Doesn't matter where I am. I will always show up because I love it. So people will look like that and think that's stressful. I've got to find a location. Sometimes, life happens. Sometimes you're traveling. Sometimes always find a location. Always figure it out because it's momentum. Okay, it's momentum. That's the secret. So let's move on to number 12. Your brain keeps score of the rooms that you enter. So this is to do with your subconscious, okay? Once you experience higher levels of success, standards, wealth, or like action taking, it becomes difficult to actually shrink backwards. So when you start to see, this is why, again, this environment is so important for you. When you see how people operate, it's very difficult for you to go back to a lower level of operation. This is why I try to lead with like you see me, believe it or not, I would be more profitable if I excluded, again, I'm going to use this as an example. Everybody here has purchased a product from us, okay? Everybody. You're still going to see the ads for the same product. You may think, that's crazy. Why is he burning money on that? The reason I do it is it's in your best interest. It doesn't give me any benefit. It actually loses me money because it's less efficient. The reason I do it is because I've noticed a pattern, and having done this for 6 years, I've noticed a pattern that when you see me move aggressively, you start to move aggressively. When you start to see my ads everywhere, even if you've already purchased that product, you see me running ads. So it poses the question of, can you run ads? Can you run ladder funnels? When you see me sending emails out multiple times a week, when you see me posting videos, when you see me posting social media content twice a day. I haven't done it this week because it's been a difficult environment, but again, not every week's perfect. When you see me do that, all of a sudden, subconsciously, it triggers something in you and it makes you do that. And I want you to do that because success is at the other side of it. So it basically trains your brain to not accept a lower standard. And when you're chilling out and you sort of just see me pop up annoyingly, probably on your timeline again, my face on an ad, it reminds you though, it keeps you on track. Oh, I've got to do this. I promised myself I was going to do this. I better get this done. Maybe I can just do it in 30 minutes now. I see the level of activity skyrocket when you see me out there doing it too. That's why I do it. So your brain subconsciously remembers this. It sticks to it. So you see that, you're in that room, you see that level of activity, you're never going to go backwards. It's like a sponge. So we have to, as much as that's a positive thing, it's also a negative thing. Because if you feed it the wrong information, if you're in the wrong environment, it can also absorb that, right? It can also absorb the parts of life where you don't get up to much. It can think that's right. So we have to be very protective of what we put in and what we block out of that environment. Very, very, very important. So it's like a sponge, and that's why you might see me do unreasonable, crazy things, right? It's unreasonable for you to think, why is he marketing? I've already bought that product. Why is he doing that? Because it looks unreasonable. Looks unreasonable, but it works because I see the action go through the roof. Now, the next one. Proximity leads to opportunity. So I might have a, where's the word I'm looking for? I may be biased in a sense because I know what it's like growing up in a village. If you saw where I grew up in a village. I grew up in a village where nobody really does anything. I've told you before, there's one man that did incredibly well, and the Tunnocks. If you ever come across Tunnocks biscuits and things like that, that was around the corner from my house. I've sat in his office, and I've been in the most remote part of Cyprus at a coffee shack in the mountains of Cyprus, and I've seen Tunnocks biscuits there, right? That was from my village, and I've spoken to the guy and everything, but that's the only thing that came from that village. So my environment growing up held me there, generally speaking, right? It held me there. So I had to, yes, I physically left it, but it's not about physically leaving. I've learned that it's actually surrounding yourself with the right people. You've got to protect this bubble. And more importantly, what you have to do is when you envision that bubble, if we envision a bubble around ourselves like a circle, draw here in the screen, and you're in the middle, it blocks everything else from coming out into it, right? So you can still have that quality time with friends and family. You can still have that, but you can't let it influence you. You have to let it bounce off you. The only thing that you let influence your business brain is what we do in here and any other business training. It has to be the right stuff. That's the stuff that's going to drive you forwards. That's going to unlock different levels in you. But we must protect it. So proximity, the closer you are, the more you come on these calls, for example, we have those conversations, the more you chat in the WhatsApp group, it doesn't need to be long conversations. It just has to be a little back and forth. It keeps your brain ticking over. It makes you feel closer to success. And because you're closer to success, you will attain more success. That's how it works. So stick very, very closely to it. And again, that is why I will literally, physically, in 3 days' notice, book transatlantic flights and just go, because proximity is very, very important. And this, again, I want to take it up a level. Like I said earlier, I want to travel to locations, and maybe if we get 5-6 people from different areas coming into those locations for a nice dinner or whatever to make it reasonable, that's what I'm trying to do. All right. So again, very important, initiative will always beat raw talent. So I'm far from the smartest person in the room. Far, far from it. You see our team behind the scenes. Alyssa, for example, far smarter than me. Leaks ahead of me. Leaks, and I can't stress that enough. The entire team are technically more intelligent than I am. And actually, Charles, I think he's busy today, but we had this conversation. It's a different level of intelligence. So the initiative of actually taking action and being willing to take the risk and being willing to lose and being willing to make the mistake will always get you further than talent will get you alone. It's far more important to do this. But that's why, for example, I lead, I drive sales, I build the business. The technical stuff happens behind the scenes, which is way above what I could ever do, technical wise, AI wise. But I'm the one that leads because of that. That's it. That's why I post the content. That's why I do it all. It's not about talent. And also, when it comes to sales, I was never comfortable with sales. I chose to leave the last job that I had because they didn't think I could sell. I did not have that level of talent, but I had the initiative to go out there and do it. And I learned multiple 7 figures worth of sales driven on calls because I just decided to take the initiative and learn. And the good news is, by being here, you already show the initiative. So we need to focus on not being the smartest person, not knowing everything, just taking action. It's the most important thing. Number 15, most people try to protect themselves. They won't take that risk, but you cannot protect your way into growth and expansion. You have to let go. You have to let go of that older version of yourself. If you're protecting your time, you're protecting money, you're afraid of doing certain things, you're protecting certainty because you don't want to live in a world of uncertainty where you don't know the outcome of something, that's going to hold you back. That's going to restrict what you do. So you have to be able to live abundantly, and you have to go out there and actually chase what you want rather than trying to protect. Now, this is something that I struggle with. He taught me that. He said he could lose everything. He's absolutely fine. He's not going to, but it's absolutely fine. Whereas I try to protect myself sometimes. Exactly, Scott. You can't save your way to success. So basically, I have a big problem, not a big problem, and I'm getting a lot better at it, but I would go through phases where I tried to play it so safe. Obviously, when I first started, I had nothing. I was negative. I've said it before, I was negative money, right? People owed me money from apartment deposits that basically some guy took over a lease that I had. I was supposed to pay the deposit to me, not like I had to, cover the one that I had paid previously. I never did, and I was relying on that. I was relying on that money. I never paid it. So I literally had negative money at first. So I had nothing to lose, which made it easier for me, right? I had nothing to lose. I could just go forwards. But what it meant was when I did have something, I was terrified of losing it. So I had to struggle. I struggled through for a long time, trying to understand how to get out of that cycle, get out of that loop, and try to have, have things, have success, but also not be afraid to lose, to grow further. It took me a little while to learn it. So I want to make sure that you don't become caught in the trap that I was caught in. And we learn from these people who are incredibly successful. They don't protect anything. They don't protect it. They just go. For example, he told me, we were talking about taxes and things, and he told me he actually pays probably much, much less tax than you think. And it's not because he's got some crazy scheme or something. He basically said it's because he spends it all in the business. He goes out there and he'll buy new machines. He'll buy different vehicles for it. He'll hire more staff. He'll put more money into marketing. He'll do trade shows. He just cycles that money in and out all the time, which is a risk. But he's not afraid to do it. And the result is that we have gone from when I first started with them, they were maybe doing like, I'd say maybe about 80, maybe about 750,000 per year. That's what they were doing. Now they're doing probably around 15, 16 million a year, and that was 2 years ago. Think about that progression. It just cycles. That's how it works. So you can't protect your way into expansion. We can't do it. We've got to be aggressive. We've got to progress. Or we've got to, take those chances. Now, the next one, number 16 here. And I've got 30 of these. So we're halfway, just past halfway now. The gap between average and elite is emotionally uncomfortable to witness. And I say that because he does run at 100 miles per hour. He really does. He's always everywhere. Hard to get a hold of, actually. Hard to sit down. I could be in the office and I don't see him all day, but he's doing stuff all the time. So you start to see this level of work and it blows you away, to be quite frank. And people think that I work hard. People think I'm always posting content. Wade, I think, he had to run off, but he always says to me, he just sees me everywhere. I know he does because he always likes the posts and things. He always sees me everything. He says, how do I do it? I'm always doing something. I'm always releasing. I've learned that's nothing compared to what this guy does. And it levels your mindset up a level, right? Now, the thing is, it's very easy to do that when the reward is there. Okay, when you can see, well, if I just do double the work, I get paid double or triple or quadruple. Easy for us to do that. The hard part is what we said earlier in the very first slide. We have to operate when the result isn't clear or guaranteed. We have to do that before we get the outcome, before we know what the outcome is going to be. So we have to operate when we don't know the outcome. We simply have to follow the path. So this allows you to work hard. This allows you to show up every single day. This allows you to put that work in. Because again, I promise you, when you get to the point where you are up at 50, 60, 70,000, not in revenue, in income, when you're taking that home in your pocket and you've got people that do a lot of the work for you and you can do whatever you want, I promise you, that hard work will be worth every single bit of sweat, equity you put into this. Because it's a life where you're not restricted by choice. You do whatever you want to do. The Wednesday is yours. Friday, yours. Monday, you decide what you do with your time. And you feel perfectly comfortable doing so. So I promise you, the hard work, the levels to this game, they're worth the outcome. Not for some fancy number, but for the control, the freedom that you have. It's well worth it. So there's differences. They work incredibly hard, harder than you could even imagine, but look at the outcome they get. Now we can find our place. We don't need to be at that level. We can find our place. If it's you want to make $500,000 a year, take home, that's the place that you settle. If you want to make $1 million, two, or whatever that number is, if you want to make that level, you just have to operate like that person would. Think about it like that. You have to operate like the person that you want to become does. Number 17. Sometimes we don't actually need a different strategy. We just need to have a more demanding environment. Now, this actually isn't quite what it says on the tin here, okay, around the jar. An environment isn't a location. An environment isn't even other people. An environment is the part of your brain, the standards that we set for ourselves. So when you enter and have these conversations with me here, when you are going through this process, when you're seeing how it works, when you're hearing what people are doing, when you're seeing success, etc., that creates the environment in your brain. That creates a level of standard. That's the reason I let you see I don't exclude audiences of people who've purchased, because it shows you the standard. It shows you that I'm running ads all the time. It shows you I'm posting content all the time. It shows you I'm sending emails. So that sets your standard. It sets it up a level. If you look back maybe four weeks ago, four workshops ago, when I showed the elite operating system, what elite people do, when I showed you the 2 pieces of content per day, when I showed you the email outbound prospecting, I showed you the ads, I showed you everything. That's the standard. That's your environment. Your environment becomes that standard. So this is how we can control it. Now, my mistake was I always thought this was a place. I always thought it had to be this city. I always thought it had to be this certain place. This was in my own head all along. This was my standard. This is the minimum I got done every day. The environment is your standard. And we can control that. So what we have to do is we have to create that minimum standard to a success that makes to a level, that makes success unreasonable to achieve. It makes it seem like, of course, that we're going to succeed. Look at what they were doing. Of course, they were going to succeed. That's the standard. That's the environment we've got to create. Now, number 18 here. Your instincts become sharper when you stop outsourcing your decisions to other people's opinions. What I mean by this is things won't make sense to other people. And we often try to get reinforcement, I'd say, encouragement from other people. We ask them, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think this is the right decision to make? Do you think I should be doing this? Whereas he told me, sitting at that table, he told me that every decision that is made is simply and wholly made by him. He makes that decision. Then he said to me, okay, from a marketing perspective, you make the decision. He says, I don't care what it is. You make that decision. Whatever you have to do, you just tell me I need this amount, this paid to this person, this amount of money paid to this person over there. They're going to do that. So he imparts that sense of decision making onto me as well. So he's not outsourcing decisions. He's leading from the top, where the decision is simply made by his own opinion and those that he trusts without any influence. This is how we make decisions. It's made by your opinion. The rest doesn't matter. The trips that I take externally make zero sense. If I ask people's opinion, they say, oh, you shouldn't go, you shouldn't go, you shouldn't go. In my head, I think my gut, my instinct tells me to do something in particular, do it. No other factors influence that decision. And what you find is that as you do more and more and more of this, you get better and better and better, because you take the risk, you make the decision. Good things happen. Sometimes it doesn't work, but a lot of the times, good things happen. It reinforces. gives you more confidence in your own instincts. This is how that feeling of people say, you sound so confident when you say these things. You said, it's not. I've just had the pattern recognition in my head. I make the decision, I was right. Make the decision, I was right. You see how that builds confidence? It's not that I've got some magical confident ability. I've just made decisions. And a lot of the time I was right. And I let that influence my future decisions. It gave me confidence to then trust my own instincts more and more and more. And that's what a lot of people have to work on. You have to work on trusting your own instincts over everything else. And how do we do this? How do we give you the ability, or how do we train your instinct to make the right decisions? By sessions like these, to show you how to think. It's not about a particular strategy or system or a process. It's showing you how to think. When I show you how to think, obviously we've had a lot of calls where I've shared marketing strategies, where how we can influence people with certain words like fix this because we only fix something that's broken, or how we anchor to the most successful people and align with it. I've shown you a lot of different psychological strategies. I'm showing you how to think. I'm giving you the ability so that in an everyday environment, your instinct operates at a different level. Your brain works at a different level. It will naturally start to do these things. When you start to naturally do these things, your instinct makes the right decision. So, long story short on this one, we don't want to outsource decisions or responsibility. You must take ownership of that responsibility, of that decision, because it's going to train your brain to make the right decision more and more and more. Personally, it's probably not the most exciting point in the world, but for me, I actually love that one. I love that one because it makes it, the amount of trust and belief that you have in yourself creates this unshakable personality. It creates this mindset where nothing can touch you. It doesn't matter what all the stuff you see in the news and all that stuff that happens, you don't care. House prices, grocery prices, fuel prices skyrocketing, everybody else is terrified. It creates this world where you don't care because you know you're going to be good, you'll be fine, because your instinct tells you so. And by being here, you're going to be just fine too. So, number 19, there's a version of you that only appears under pressure. I remember growing up, I played a lot of sports. And for example, I played a lot of golf. And it was team golf as well. And basically, I was very well known for the fact that I would initially go quite heavily down in score-wise. The person would be beating me quite heavily, right? And it would appear to be struggling. But then it would be like a switch flip. And all of a sudden I would turn it back on again. I would win at the end. Because the only way my brain could work is if I was under severe pressure. My back went against the wall. It's the same thing that's happened. I told you the story earlier where I had nothing. I literally had nothing. I was negative money. But then the switch flips. I'm under pressure. It shifts into a new gear. So what it's about is it's understanding that when you're put under a bit of pressure, and I can say this confidently, because again, you're here. You're just like me. Okay. You've made those decisions that nobody else would make. You're a special type of person. So I know that we can unlock a world where when you're under some pressure, things start to happen. Now, what we have to do, the skill in this, is being able to simulate that pressure, because it's not always going to be there. You're not always going to be in some life or death situation or high risk thing or high stakes. It's not always going to be there. So we have to simulate that pressure. We have to create it in a controlled environment where we can put ourselves under pressure so we can operate at a level that otherwise we can't, and basically be able to turn this off and on. We want to be able to leverage this. When you can learn how to do this, doors open, because you're always operating at a really high level and you've got it on a switch. So super important. Pressure changes things. Adding a bit of pressure, that hunger, that urgency changes things. It's like when you have something urgent that you have to do and you leave it to the last minute, you always get it done, right? You always get it done. So it's not something we have to avoid. I actually want you to try to create this. I want you to simulate this. It means you don't have to work 7 days a week, right? You just have to work in small, intense periods of time to put that pressure on yourself. You'll be amazed at what happens. And he told me that as well. He said that he came from nothing as well, in that sense, that he had nothing, and the pressure created this business of his. And the hunt for growth, the ad spend, that creates pressure in him again, which has him operating at a high speed, even though he's got 30 million liquid. He doesn't need to. But the pressure, he creates the pressure. So think about that. Think about how we can create that pressure in you as well. Number 20, be hard to ignore. So this guy's loud. He's very, very loud. And he'll sit at a dinner table and he doesn't care what people think about him. He's just himself. Now, this comes from being hard to ignore. People can't ignore him. The way I want to translate this though is that we want to be hard to ignore in a sense where we take action. Okay, it's all about action. So, for example, me, quite hard to ignore. I just show up in person at the office for something as simple as training the videographer to get it right. I just show up. I'm quite hard to ignore in that sense. I take action quickly. I just do things. I just get it done. I follow through. And it stands out. So one of the ways I do this, and I like to give you different examples to maybe one of them sits with you. When it comes to our business here, so that's the client side, right? I will just show up. I'll just get things done. I'll just get things taken care of. I don't always charge for it. I just get things done and I solve problems. On this side, the agency lab side, the way I stand out is by offering ridiculous levels of value compared to 99.9% of people out there. That's why we have so many people, because I offer ridiculous value at an extremely low cost that nobody else is willing to provide. They're not willing to work at the level I work at. They want to charge 10 times more, maybe 20 times more. It makes me hard to ignore though, right? It makes me memorable in that sense. So you see how I do it in that way? All the stuff I post every Wednesday, all the workshops I do where we don't sell anything at all, makes me very hard to ignore. That's the reality. That's how we make it different. So in your world, you want to be hard to ignore in a sense that you give more than everybody else because you're willing to go to that next level. And that fits in with our earlier points where we're willing to take it to the next level. We're willing to do the things that nobody else wants to do. That is what will take you to where you want to go. That's going to get you that level of success. So we want to be hard to ignore. All right, 21. We're getting there. We're almost done here. You can tell how someone views themselves by what they tolerate daily. This is a big one as well. I go into his house, spotless. Now, granted, he is a housekeeper daily. It is spotless. You go into his office, spotless. Absolutely spotless. Messy environments, weak routines, slow execution, constant excuses. It all reflects the identity of who we are. It reflects the standards that we have. So in my world, I keep things extremely precise. Everything is done to a certain level. I have rules. And oftentimes, if someone joins our world, yes, we can set up email automations, etc. But if someone joins our world, I ensure that even if I'm on a call like this, where I physically can't send emails, someone has taken care of the person instantly. It's the difference, though. It's the difference they're taken care of because it's a standard that I set. I set standards for customer support. I set standards for responses. One of the biggest things he told me was, I respond to him when nobody else does, and extremely quickly. I don't wait. I don't say you've got to wait 24 hours for a response to an email or to his contacts in you. You only work 9 to 5. No, I'll respond instantly. Is it hard? Sometimes, sure, of course it is. But it's not all the time. It's very infrequent. But it's memorable. Again, you see how we connect the dots here? Same thing with what you do as well. Same thing with what he does in his business. Customers get responses instantly. Instantly. It's the standard. Orders are checked. His orders, the orders that come in, are checked to the letter every single time. So it doesn't tolerate messiness or messy work environments physically or in systems and processes. He doesn't tolerate spelling mistakes. He doesn't tolerate anything, because that's the standard. So in our world here, how do we translate this? We have to have a standard within ourselves that we just do not tolerate anything less. We will succeed and we will run things a certain way. We do not allow negativity. We do not ignore not taking care of ourselves. We don't accept any procrastination. We have a standard and we always hit that standard. So you've got to raise your standards in life. I can't stress how much that's going to change things. Number 22, obsession builds empires. So the people who build massive things are usually operating from obsession, not balance. So you show up every day. Right? I show up every single day, every day, even on the weekends. Yes, I might slow down slightly because I've got dogs to walk and whatnot, but I always respond though. I typically do respond. Even in the WhatsApp chat, I respond. It's obsession, right? It's not that hard for me to do it. So it's not about balance. It's about being better. So this level of obsession, I gave you the example earlier where he picked up a call from a customer who had a question about their opening hours at a dinner table after hours when he's got a $17 million business. That's obsession. So you see how this level of dedication, it might seem difficult, it might seem tiring, but I promise you it's not. It's nowhere near what you think it is. It really isn't. The only difference is the difference it makes in your business. It transforms your business. It transforms it because it makes you better than everybody else in the sense of you get things done faster, you do things to a higher standard, your standards are higher in general, your speed is better, you're faster. It's all created through this obsession. And he is most definitely obsessed. Number 23. Most people dramatically underestimate the power of physical presence. So oftentimes we want to sit behind our screens. And again, this is something that I've been thinking about, in-person meetups and things like that. I think you'd benefit greatly if I hosted those things. And again, it's not a case of we charge anything. It's not paid or anything. It's just we will host it and you can come. Because I think that having that face-to-face conversation, that physical presence, being there, the handshake, etc. I think sharing dinner and having those conversations will really take you to that next level. So you'd be amazed at what happens when you go to visit your clients as well. Now, obviously, make sure they're paying you enough before you do it. But the point is, actually physically going there makes a tremendous difference to your business. So we think about AI and all these systems and processes. You'll be amazed at what happens when you just show up somewhere and you have that conversation. So if you're operating locally, it's go into the office, go into the business, just show up. Go and spend a day where you just go visit a few people or go in and just chat to business owners. You'll be amazed at what happens. Big underrated opportunity here is actually going in person, especially in the age of AI. Go in person. Just walk into a business, go to a networking event, connect with these people. It makes a tremendous difference. And I knew for a fact as well, my relationship with him would be stronger if I just go. And I was right again with it. So physical presence multiplies the leverage that you have. As I said, we will be looking to do those types. People have asked me many times and I haven't done it before, but I'm looking at doing it. Number 24, a lot of success comes from reducing the delay between instinct and execution. So hesitation actually holds you back far more. Far more. You don't want to hesitate. You have to act instinctively, then you have to execute. So you've got to make sure that when you have that path, you have your to-do list, you have your checklist, just like the playbook we released last week. You have the checklist and you're just executing day after day after day. I promise you, you can operate like an elite level operator simply by working in the morning or the evening, one or the other. You don't have to be working 12-hour days. You just have to be very efficient. You just have to execute on the exact task on the table. That's it. So execution, you must act on instinct. It's not going to be perfect. It can be messy, but your standards remove the mess. It removes the chaos. It's so important to act on that instinct. For example, in his case, he had an opportunity. He's in the printing industry, this guy, and he had an opportunity to get into the wholesale side with the clothing, right? He just acted instinctively. He just went, created a separate brand, did it, boom. Huge momentum. He didn't have anything, he just did it. The success follows. So you're not going to have this perfect plan in place. You just have to have the instinct to go out there and do it. Number 25. Again, we're getting very close to the end here. Some rooms will drain your ambition. It's so important. I cannot stress this enough. I am very, very protective of my bubble, especially in my home environment. Very, very protective. I have friends and family, but they do not influence my decisions in any way, shape, or form. I will visit them every single week. I'll have dinner, Sunday dinners, etc. They do not influence my decision. I just literally do not hear it. They will give me their opinion. I don't hear it though. And I don't digest it whatsoever. So the reason I do that is because that negativity, that doubt, that uncertainty, I can't operate like that. So you've got to protect that bubble as much as you possibly can. You've got to create that environment. You have it here. We're in rooms here with business owners. We're in rooms with people who are doing things, who are taking action. This is your daily energy. And this is why I say checking in daily, getting involved in the community, the environment, that is your community. That's who you are. That's who you want to become. It's your identity. We've got to protect that with everything that we have. It is so important for us to do this. Wrong rooms will make you settle for less. They will. They will. What's the word I'm like? They will blunt your vision. They will hold you back, and it's going to kill your motivation. And your ceiling is often inherited from your surroundings. For example, in Scotland, the average salary is actually a lot lower than most countries, especially compared to England as well. If I were to simply live in my surroundings, I would earn probably 1/20th of what we can. 1/20th. If I were to just blend into that environment. So it really I cannot stress this enough. This is probably the second most important lesson. Some rooms will drain all of the ambition out of you. And that's okay, we can accept that, but we have to control it. This means this bubble that you're in right now, this bubble is something you have to stick to like glue. You've got to protect it with everything you have. Number 26. Big wins hide in costly inconveniences. So this is where things that do not make sense actually produce the biggest reward. So for example, the flights for me, very inconvenient. It's inconvenient for me to fly across the world. But that's where the opportunity is. If I didn't do that, if I didn't do the difficult thing, if I didn't have uncomfortable meetings, if I didn't go, and it's for me, I do spend a lot of time at home. So for me, getting out into those meetings is not always the most comfortable thing, but I do it because I know what the outcome is. It's uncomfortable for me to have those conversations, but I go and do it anyway because the win actually hides in the inconvenient things. It's inconvenient for you to go out there and speak to business owners, right? It's inconvenient for you to be driving back from the grocery store and pop into this chiropractic office and just have a chat with them. It's inconvenient, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. But if you did that, are you telling me you wouldn't find some momentum? Of course you would. Of course you would. So success is actually behind the inconvenience. It's behind the discomfort. The ones that struggle are always going to be the ones that hide behind the discomfort. Number 27, we're down to the last few now. High-level people often move with certainty before certainty exists. So they act decisively, they do things before they're 100% sure and what the outcome will be. They trust their own judgment, their own instincts when the path isn't clear. And this is going to build your confidence because the pattern, that repetition, that action then outcome over and over and over again gives you confidence in your own decision. You just have to act first initially with uncertainty. You can't know the outcome because we can only know the outcome of things we've experienced in the past. But you're here because you don't want to simply settle for what you've experienced in the past. You want better, bigger, grander. But you haven't experienced that before. So why would you only go for things you're certain of? You have to do the uncertain because you haven't experienced it before or yet. So you've got to go out there and chase that sense of uncertainty. You want it to be uncertain because that means you're doing things you've never done before. That means you're progressing into uncharted territory, which is where the success actually is. So I've got to move and be aggressive when the outcome isn't quite clear. Number 28, most people think they need more information when they actually need more exposure. So you can study success forever, but at some point you've just got to stand there. This is why I tell you, this is why I always say to everybody that comes in our door, I always tell them the first thing I want you to do is I want you to get out there, take the systems. We've done all the heavy lifting for you, all the fulfillment systems, the websites, the emails, everything. It is already done. I want you to get out there and speak to people. I want you to get out there and start generating leads. That's why I did it all for you, because it removes the barrier for you to go out there and start having conversations. Why? Because it gets you exposure. And exposure is where you're going to find the wins, which is where you're going to find the momentum. So you don't need more information. You simply need to get yourself out there because you'll learn a lot faster. You'll have targeted questions with context, because a client will ask you something. Maybe you're not sure, but hey, that's why we're in your corner. You can just bounce the question off of us and get the answer instantly without having to search for it. That is how this works. So you've just got to make sure you're out there, get that exposure, go straight to speaking with people and run with it, because that's going to get you the momentum. That's exactly why I tell you to go out there and do it first. The good news is we are your backup. You've got people with a wealth of experience as your backup. That's why. All right, number 29, second to last. We didn't move there. Okay, 29, the second to last. You don't fully understand. Oh, did I skip one there? think I skipped one. Yeah. Nope. My number is just messed up here. Let me see if I got 31. What's going on with my slides here today? Okay. So a lot of motivation problems are actually environmental. Now, what I mean by this is oftentimes when you wake up a certain morning and you don't feel motivated, it's because of that environment. Again, not physically, but it's because of that Groundhog Day where you wake up and feel a certain way. This is why I always tell you, wake up, get your coffee, check in with us. Why? Because I'll respond to you. When I respond to you, it sets that chain reaction of getting into our world. It gets you into the world. It gets you into that level of energy. I will pull you up with me because I have things that also pull me up. It's this flywheel. So that's why I want you to leverage it. It's not really your physical environment, as in what your surroundings are. It's not having to look out to that Miami skyline or something, right? Or turn on your Lamborghini or something. That's not where motivation comes from. Motivation comes from me, from me basically waking up and doing things and showing you, look, I've done this. And you thinking, oh, I can do this too. That's where the motivation comes from. It's pulling, it's lifting. I'm lifting you up with me. So the first thing you should do every morning when you need that motivation is just have a conversation. Have that conversation. Ask a question. Doesn't matter if it's a stupid question. It does not matter. There are no stupid questions. All we're doing is conversing. The natural conversation is what will actually help you progress, because it's not about talking about something in particular. It's simply about re-entering the environment. It's simply about putting your head in the right space over and over and over again on a daily basis with consistency. So it puts you back in that environment when maybe you're doing something, or maybe something has brought you down the day before, or maybe some family issues or whatever that might be. But the second you just have that conversation, you re-enter the world. You re-enter the world of high standards. You remember who you are. You remember what your identity is now. You remember how fast we operate. You remember the level of service we deliver. Then you start to see our ads everywhere. You remember the level of action that we're taking. You remember the support that you have. All of a sudden, your guardrails are up. You're protected from those external negative influences. Your confidence increases. Now you've got the motivation to execute because you're back in that environment. Sleep has this Groundhog Day sort of function where we can easily forget the thing we did the day before, the things we thought the day before. This is why every morning it's so important for us to intentionally re-enter that world. And that's exactly what we do. Every day, send that message, have that conversation with no purpose, with no intention. You don't have to have something in particular. Why do you think I do it? Every morning I send a message. Have you ever noticed that? Every day I send a message because it's like that trigger. It just switches it on for the day, puts me in that environment. You can do the exact same thing. You can send that message too. You can have that conversation. And number 29 here, I think one of my slides is this number 29 here. Okay, I've missed a slide here. So number 29 was you don't fully understand your potential until you spend time around people who normalize bigger lives. So your ceiling is often inherited from your surroundings. So you have to make sure that you understand what's possible out there by spending time in our environment. You have to understand that I live in a world where I live in the outskirts of a village, well, quite far from a village, but on the outskirts of a village. Yet, there's a world out there that nobody else understands. If you were to look in my window, you would see me sitting at a computer. Or maybe I sit like this outside, to be honest, with my computer. But you see that, and all you see is me on a computer. But inside that world, global, everywhere, crazy. People don't understand what I do. They've got no idea, but that's going to be used as well. So you just have to make sure that you stick so closely to those environments, because it will normalize that kind of life where you can work anywhere, where your level of income is different to everybody else, and nobody can compare. That's your world. It's normalized, and that's going to help you level up. So the key takeaways here, after we've gone through 30 of those, I have to fix that slide before I release the slides themselves. But the key takeaways are: proximity accelerates belief and execution. So you have to surround yourself with successful people. You've got to reduce the gap between instinct and action. Hesitation destroys opportunities, and you must choose environments that demand your best. And remember, it's not always your physical surroundings. It's often the space between your ears, in your brain, okay? That's your environment. You have to carefully create, nurture, and protect that environment. It's so, so important. And that is how we do it. So basically, by putting myself in these environments, what I want to show you is the level of work and dedication that these people have that we can learn from. This is how this guy has created this life for himself. Now, maybe we don't want to get to $30 million. Maybe that's not the goal. But hey, if we do the things that someone at that level does, you're probably going to get to 1 or 2 million, right? You're probably going to get there. That's why we do this. We raise the level, we raise the standard with which we operate, and you'll find that everything in your life changes. And remember, this is exactly why I've designed this environment like this. This is why I send the message every day. This is why I run the ads, so you see. And I'm sorry, I don't exclude customers, right? I don't exclude that. That's why I post the content, because you see it. Every day I always get people saying to me, we saw this piece of content or that piece of content. But it shows you, if I'm doing it, you can do it too, because I'm just like you. That's the message and the moral of the story. All right, that was a longer. I thought this one was going to be shorter. As ever, it's not. I've been going for 1 hour, 45 minutes here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up the call, wrap up the presentation here, and I'm going to open the room to any questions that anybody has. If there's no questions, that's perfectly fine as well. But what I'm going to do, as I said, I'll open it up. If you have any questions about this or about what you're working on or whatever it is that you need, I'll open it up and you can ask me, and we can have a back and forth. And I'm going to give you that chance now. So, does anybody have any questions, comments, feedback, thoughts, things that this may have inspired, anything at all? Feel free to unmute yourself or leave it in the chat there. I'll open it up now. Anybody have anything? Feel free. Thanks, Christina. Appreciate that. Olivia?
Well, if nobody goes, that goes again. Well, first of all, yeah, I did it before. I was going to say, like, take a jab saying like, oh, yeah, a short one, yeah? Because yeah, I knew already when you said 30 at the beginning, I'm just like, no, it's not going to be a short one. He has too much to expand, and it's good because I really like the format. I think it brings a lot of things, it reflects on that way. Yeah, just a question on now, finally, after, few years, I find the balance, but because of the way you expressed it, the fact that it's unreasonable in the eyes of a lot of people and the people around us as well, that can be also our partners and stuff. So how do you deal with that in terms of, if you want to raise your standards, that brings you sometime in situation, like you say, where you need to be almost always on, and therefore people around can just have a hard time with that part. So what would be the way to deal with it?
That's a great question. That's a great question. It depends who it is. I'm assuming, let's talk about partners, right? Is that kind of along the right lines? That's the direct question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would basically say is, with partners, usually the issue isn't necessarily that you're working on something that you're passionate about. It's that there's a mismatch between why you're working on it and what they see. And what I would actually encourage you to do is get them involved in it. Now, you don't have to be doing something in particular, or you don't have to be, physically doing something. They have to be involved with the vision, right? And I know you've said before that you've got a vision of living in the south of France or somewhere warm or whatever, and your wife has that vision of actually colder.
Yes.
I think there's a bit of work in terms of kind of aligning on that page, of having that grander vision of what you want it to be like. If it's maybe you want to enjoy a life where you have, I know your kids are kind of up now and they're getting into working and whatnot. Maybe it's helping them get their first home, or maybe it's having that family home they can return to all the time in that big yard and the pool, and they want to come back. But when they have kids, or when they're married, or whatever the case is, building that vision collectively makes a big difference. And that's what I mean when I say get them involved. They have to be involved in the decision. They've got to be involved in the vision, because then they understand why you're doing. It's actually a fantastic question, because I've seen many examples of, like, one example is one of a relative where he's got a business, started a business, and the trucking guy, I told you before, the trucking guy, and he moves the big heavy machinery equipment, and they're basically breaking up as a result, because there's a mismatch between he has to work all the time to get this off the ground, and at the same time his family life is broken down. That comes from not really being on the same page vision wise, and not having those conversations, and kind of operating with two different lives. I think when you bring the one vision into it and have the partner involved, in a sense, where you're working towards this end goal, those things start to disappear. And that's where you've also got to be very strict about your time, which is you have to go over and above with spending, say it was, let's say it takes away from time spent.
Give me 1 second, I'm just switching to headphones died there. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
I think that's where it comes to making sure you have that quality time on the weekends, in the evening, being very strict about it as well. So it's about being disciplined in both areas. You can operate at a faster, higher standard by being more efficient with your time and stricter about your time when you work, but also being stricter about the quality time. So it goes both ways. It's not about just working; it's about being strict every day.
Yes, that's why I've been having to educate clients who had been used in the past of more access, and then now I put boundaries a bit clearer. And the difficulty lies in the period where, like you say, you need to work at a certain intensity before seeing the results. And even when you share the vision, the ultimate things that makes things switch in terms of like acceptance more of how much involvement you need to put in is when you start to show up with results. If the results are not there for a long period, then that's where the tension is created and the friction is.
Yeah, I see that. I can see that. I would say that results are formed in more than one way, in a sense, because what you're trying to create is not just a monetary result, which is often what we're talking about, but it's often not a monetary result. It's a combination of what your life looks like with that monetary result. And that's not easy, right? So, for example, you could say the same thing about me. You could say the same thing, because could I multiply my price by 100 and monetarily make far more? Of course, 100%, without a doubt I could. But I'm trying to create, and I am creating, this lifestyle where it's a combination of both, where I can still have that life. So the cost that I pay is that it's slower. And that's the cost that you pay as well, because you want to have the life where you do have that control, but you've also got the consistency and you've got the stability, and that is what you provide as well, because it's not just about the money, it's the stability, the predictability in the future. that sense of comfort and safety for your family. But that has a cost to it. So it's not about earning X amount. What the conversation basically has to be, what I'm trying to build here is so that I can live that life and have control over my time and have the predictability that I know it's still going to be here in a decade's time.
Yeah, and I think that nowadays in our era, that speech of saying like that predictability and stability, things are shifting so much that basically a job doesn't guarantee that anymore at all.
Yep.
When we are building something where we are in control completely of building it up. So
100%. Yeah. And you also have to realize as well, I wish I could, there's things I could share, but I can't because I'm with some people here and in other rooms. I can't. Gotta be careful. That's what I'm saying. Right? Basically, there are income caps as well. Okay. And the one thing that's non-forgiving, think about the fuel prices, right? They're ridiculous right now. Ridiculous. And they're putting a lot of pressure on people. And the energy prices for electricity and heating and etc. And the general price of groceries. What use does the job have? Because that doesn't increase really to protect you. The only way you can actually protect against that, and the track record is it's going to happen. It's going to keep happening. Inflation, they might say they can reduce inflation, but that doesn't change anything. It just slows down the speed at which it increases. It doesn't actually change anything. So the reality is the only way you truly can control is if you build that vehicle. That vehicle takes a lot of work. So if our family want that level of protection, you have to be given the chance to build something special. And special things are not built overnight. They take time. It is hard work. But that's the sacrifice that you make. And that's the sacrifice that your family work towards, because that is the outcome that you want. You want that level of freedom. And they want that level of freedom to spend the time with you as well. But there's a cost that we pay. But the reward is worth it. Because that's what I say. I often say, when you take that conversation away from making X amount of money and you focus on, look, this is actually about control, it changes.
Yeah. Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, you become on the same team at that point. And this is why I say this is what I mean by get them involved. Understanding that whole picture, not just you pay the bills, right? Not that kind of thing. That makes sense? See what I'm saying?
Very good. Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions they wanted to cover or anything you wanted to chat about? Feel free. It's a smaller group today. Usually we've got like 15, 20 people on, so it's a smaller, tighter knit group today. So feel free to ask any questions that you want to. Who has that one? Vince, go for it.
Let's see. Okay, I can see I'm being heard. Just wondering, as for onboarding your clients in the back, I'm noticing that like the videos that were used to kind of get us started trained, those are a bit outdated.
Which ones? Because the onboarding ones were done in November. So
not oh, you're talking about not you guys. I'm talking about GoHello.
Oh, right. Okay.
GoHello itself. Does anyone know of any white label? Like I did have white label package, but it's like a year old. And it doesn't look the same.
So that's the big problem with the static videos, actually. And I was just having a conversation, an onboarding call just before this call. It was something we were discussing how fast GoHello will change. So what we're actually doing to combat this, because you do have like HL Pro Tools and things, but again, if they don't update them, it's useless. So what we're doing to combat that is we're actually training an AI employee to be able to take care of it all, because then we can update it, right? Then I can update it all the time. So we're training an AI employee, which you'll be able to install into your accounts, which will allow you to have customers speaking with the AI employee, completely trained in all the systems and go high level, etc., and kept up to date. It'll be so your customers can actually have everything done, and it'll be current, and you will also have the ability to go through like an onboarding bot where it's completely up to date for you. So I've noticed the opportunity, not opportunity, but gap there, I'd say, because we're not going to charge for it, but you have noticed the gap, and that's what we're doing to combat that.
Yeah, I think I've been going through a lot of videos. I'm glad that they came out with the AI, so now you can just ask the AI to give you a SOP, or you can even write code or not code, but have another LLM write your prompt to give to the Ask AI, and it'll work through your workflow is what I've found. But
yeah,
not all customers have AI feature yet.
The problem is I don't think you can give that to your customers. So you still the bottleneck for support. Whereas what we're trying to do is we're going to make it so you can input it into your account, and then your customers can actually ask the questions. So it's kind of like it's not white label, but it's kind of like white label, like say like the top tier of HL Pro Tools where they'll actually deal with customer service on your behalf. It's going to be like that.
Okay. That sounds good. Otherwise, I was thinking of maybe I was going to make my own videos, but
yeah, but it's a lot of work, and obviously that you've experienced the problem, which is they update it every week. So
yeah,
more. That's why I think AI will work, because we can update it more easily than videos,
Right. All right. Well, thank you.
No worries.
One person, they do update a lot quick.
It's great, but it's also a curse at the same time.
Exactly.
All right. Any other questions? Feel free. I'm here till the last question's answered. No questions. No worries, Vince. You're welcome. And again, for people watching the recording, Vince said thanks in the chat there, as did Olivia and Christina. So I'm not just saying you're welcome, Vince. You said that in the chat there. All right. Any last questions before we wrap up for the day? No? Okay. I will get this turned into a document, just like I have been doing the last few weeks. I'll get it uploaded. I'll also put the recording up as well if there's any parts that you want to revisit, and I'll get the link will be sent into the WhatsApp group and also into on email as well. And yes, perfect. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Perfect. And Earl, just as a note there as well, make sure you join the WhatsApp chat as well. I know you just joined just before this call, and Scott, I think you're in there already, but just in case, because I know everyone else here is in that chat. You're in WhatsApp. Perfect. It's hard for me to tell because I only ever see the numbers, the phone numbers. I don't see the names, so I never know who's talking where. So good stuff. But Earl, get in there. Make sure you're there. Perfect. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Any questions, as ever, you know where to find us. WhatsApp chat will be sent to you via email, Earl. The link to it. You just tap the link, and it will give you the link to the community forum. Okay. All right. I'm going to go get a cup of tea because my voice is hoarse. WhatsApp link, Austin. See if you go into. We can send it to you via email, but if you go to the Facebook group, it's the first pinned message as well. You'll see the link. It's just I just pinned it at the top, so you'll see that in there, and Earl too. You're not in the Facebook group yet, but Austin, you're in there. So if you go to the group and just tap, if you don't have it or you can't find it there, just send me an email and I'll send it to you. I just know they've got it scheduled for Earl because he just joined. That's why I said email. All right. No worries. You're welcome, everyone. All right, I'll wrap up the call. Now I'm going to go get some green tea or something for my voice. It's hoarse after that one. And I'll chat to everybody soon. All right. See you, everyone. See you.